She was Dunstan's mother, a very strong influence on everyone around her. She took charge of their home, and after the incident, she also took charge of the Dempster's household. After his beating over the stolen eggs, Dunstan's relationship with his mother was forever damaged. Dunstan was feeling a lot of anger towards her and felt as if she was controlling every aspect of his life. The relationship with Dunstan and his mother really shaped who Dunstan was. This early relationship, I believe, shaped him in the way that it made him hard to allow a woman to have control over him like she did, and this is why many of his relationships did not work out. Diana was a nurse that helped treat and rehabilitate Dunstan after his injuries on the battlefield. She was also the first woman Dunstan ever had a sexual relationship with. She comes up with the idea of a new name for a new beginning. She is thinking about marriage, but he refuses on the basis that he does not want another mother figure after finding out his mother is dead. Diana had a very similar effect on Dunstan as his mother did. She was a very strong and opinionated person, and she caused Dunstan to have some flashbacks to his childhood. I feel this affected him and was the reason why Dunstan did not become Diana's husband. This also had affected him moving back to Canada. Leola was Boy's girl, but just before Dunstan goes off to war, he has a fling with her, and she tells him that she loves him more than Boy. He holds on to this belief while at war. She was Dunstan's pen pal while overseas fighting. She affected his way of thinking about the world and his love life. She was one of the driving forces that helped him return to Canada. He talked with Leola while overseas. It helped him remind himself of home. And for him, it was the first time he followed his heart somewhere. So I feel this affected him in a very good way. Mrs. Dempster affected Dunstan's life in a few ways. The first was at the start of the novel, he dodged a snowball that instead hit her and caused a head injury and for her to go into premature labor with her son. He feels guilty and responsible for the poor mental state of her. Indirectly, this affects his home life and causes Dunstan to become a social outcast because he spends all of his free time helping to raise her son. I feel that these early childhood shocks really shaped this young boy into the type of man he turned out to be later in the book. She also was whom Dunstan referred to as the Three Miracle and the woman he saw on the battlefield. Liesel's persistence in Dunstan's life forces him to take a long look at himself and his place in the world around him. She makes him realize that he does not need to look out for everyone's happiness and well-being, and that he should take more care of his own happiness and well-being. This affects him in a very positive way, and because of this, he starts to look out for himself and his own well-being and happiness. She forces him to see that the guilt he carries does not allow him to live his life to the fullest, and that the guilt he is carrying around will not allow him to live a happy life. He was infatuated with her, and acted completely out of character when dealing with her. He would ogle her while she was changing. This was the only time in the book where Dunstan acted any way like this. His feelings for her brought out his baser male chauvinistic traits, and this was not in any way positively affecting him in the story. She did not affect Dunstan directly, but affected him through marriage, because during her marriage to Boy, the two men had to work out some of the bad blood between them, and for them, they had to see if it was worth still having a grudge over this bad blood. This affects Dunstan in a very positive way, because he can finally have some of the guilt that he has been carrying with him since childhood lifted off of his chest. This allows for him to have better health overall and improves his happiness. The role of women in today's society is to invoke change of society norms, to fight for equal rights between men and women. They are able to have their own families, their own houses, they're able to run their own businesses and can vote for change in politics, and they are also able to be productive members of society. The women in the time when the book was written were to work in the house, raise the children, cook the food, clean the house. They were not able to work. They did not have the power to change society. They lived in the shadows of their husbands, and there was no way to leave these shadows. He depicts women in the story in a way that they're either a savior or a burden. Like, some of the characters are written as such that they're to believe almost to be a threat to Dunstan. Others are written to be a savior to him, to allow him to feel better and to be able to find true happiness for his life. He portrays women in his early life to have a negative influence on him. It causes him to turn out the way he turns out. But the women he meets after the war, they are kind to him, loving towards him. They show affection and kindness. They care for his rooms, allow him to seek change and have a happier life. The women in Dunstan's life affected him in many ways. The effects showed through as a very independent man who was not led astray by distractions. This allowed him to focus extremely well at his studies at work, at school, and at the universities. It showed that he would be a very respectful man and a very kind man. There were many underlying reasons to why Dunstan didn't get married. The major underlying reason was he never wanted to give any woman the power over him that his mother had. He never wanted to be controlled by another woman.